Tell me if I'm wrong to be upset and a little perturbed by this. So a few years ago, a friend of mine came over to our house and he was wearing sandals and he left his sandals by the front door. And then while we were socializing, Biter the dog peed on his sandals. Obviously, unfortunate. We apologized.
Yes.
And then we said, oh, we'll wash your sandals overnight. We'll put them in the washing machine. And in the meantime, our friend needed some shoes to wear home. And I offered to give him a pair of my slippers, my UGG slippers that I love. So I'm about to hand him the slippers. And then I look down and I notice, oh, he's barefoot, which makes sense because he wore sandals.
Yeah.
So then I go like, oh, okay, I'll get you some socks to wear with the slippers. And then he goes, no, that's okay. I don't need socks. And at that point, I'm kind of like, in my head, I'm like, seems like that's not your call. Seems like they're my slippers. If I tell you I prefer you to not just wear like your bare feet, stinky, sweaty bare feet in my slippers, you would wear socks.
Your raw dogs.
But he was just so confident. He's like, oh, no, I actually don't need them. It's like, well, it's not really for you. It'd be for my slippers.
Right. Like the socks aren't being offered for your comfort. They're being offered because I would like a barrier in between the shoe I'm lending you and your disgusting foot.
And I think there's an intimacy there. It's like, you like slippers, like your bare feet on my slippers. And then every time it would ruin the slippers for me. And by the way, it did. It did. I can't wear them again. But anyway, I, of course, didn't verbalize this. I just gave him the slippers anyway. He just put his bare feet in the slippers, whatever.
Yeah.
But also, I'm kind of surprised because as I've started telling people this story, it took me many years to work up the courage to share this narrative.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of this response, which is people being like, well, makes sense. Your dog peed on his sandals. He should get to put his bare feet in your slippers.
And it's just kind of like, is that the eye for an eye world you guys want to live in? Just because our dog did something to his sandals, does that mean that he gets to ruin the sanctity of the loaner shoe that he's wearing in the interim?
Because to me, they're separate transactions.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the dog peed on your sandals. Oh, you're refusing to wear socks with my slippers. Also, I'm going to say this, and this may be my thing. A sandal, by its nature, can kind of get wet, get dirty, get fucked up, and then it's very easy to snap back. Whereas a slipper, especially one with like a fur lining, that kind of, you can't really fix. Like once it gets affected, it like, maybe it's in my head, but it's like, I feel like your bare feet sweat permeates. It's a different
you don't
thing.
Even wear your slippers raw, which I think is a crucial thing to point out about Robert is Robert would never raw his Uggs.
I know.
And so it's like, Dana, I'm like, I raw my Uggs. That being said, I don't want anyone else rawing my Uggs.
Because that would ruin your ability to raw your Uggs.
And again, if you're an Ugg wearer, you know how personal the Ugg slipper wearer connection is. And again, I will maintain, Robert doesn't even allow himself the raw Ugg slipper foot luxury.
I wear socks with slippers. I wear socks.
Robert wears socks with slippers.
If you're going to wear my slippers, you have to play by my slipper rules.
Yes.
Which is, hey, when it comes to my slippers, we wear socks.
Right.
But again, I guess people go like, hey, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Your dog peed on the slippers.
But
on
again,
his sandals.
Those are two completely different transactions. It's like the idea that like because an accident happened to your thing and I'm gonna correct the accident in a separate transaction. I'm correcting this accident. I'm either buying you a new pair of sandals and washing your sandals. In a new transaction, I'm like loaning you a pair of shoes so you can get home. It's not an eye for an eye, like your sandals got peed on so you can do whatever the fuck you want to my slippers. Yeah, you can pee on my slippers. No. You can't. Just because your sandals got peed on, and I'm sorry for that, like, that doesn't mean that when the shoes that I loan you, you can treat like fucking shit.
Well, yeah, it is just one step removed, like, oh, my dog or our dog, your dog, pees on his sandals. Therefore, I offer him slippers. It's like he just takes my slippers, thanks, drops on the floor, and he just starts peeing on my slippers. Yeah. And he's like, now we're even. I didn't even know that was like a thing people consider because I'm like, I guess I didn't even think of like a vengeance element because also to me, like, well, the sandals are going to be good as new after you wash them. They're like made to they're water resistant. They're like made to resist water.
I just think it's not connected.
Yeah.
It's like me loaning you these slippers. Again, it's not like retribution. I'm not loaning you the slippers because that's what's fair. I'm loaning you the slippers because you need shoes to get home. And I'm really sorry that the dog peed in your shoes.
Also, I'm like, I have no doubt this person prefers to not wear socks when they wear slippers, but it's like, it's my slippers, play by my rules. I'm offering you socks. By the way, clean socks, obviously, duh.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm offering you socks. This thing where it's like, no, that's not really how I roll. It's like, well, it's not you rolling. It's your role. It's my slippers.
Like, theoretically, that wouldn't be up to you.
Well, in my head, it's like, okay, it's like we're at dinner and I like knock over a glass and it spills on someone's shirt. And then I go to get them a shirt and then a clean shirt for them to wear while I wash their original one. And as soon as they take my shirt, they rip it in half.
Right.
And they go, yeah, what are you going to do?
And they go, well,
you fucked up
spilled
mine.
my shirt. You spilled on my shirt.
But
it's
also,
like, that's just, is that the world you want to live in, basically?
Yeah.
Is like what I'm saying. Like, okay, yeah, like your thing got kind of fucked up. But again, I'm remedying that separately. I'm remedying my mistake already.
Yeah.
So then when I also offer you a temporary fix while I do a permanent fix to the thing, does that mean that you get to, like, again, spit on my temporary fix?
Yeah.
Like, or what? Like, why are you trying to get even with me?
But
or
also,
like, why is this even viewed like that?
I want to be so interesting because it's so interesting to me because until I saw the kind of feedback from people that I've told this story to, where a lot of them are like, well, who cares? It's like his sandals got messed up, so he should be able to do what he wants to your slippers. It's my main thing was like, it's not even like this person was being vindictive, because I could almost understand that logic if they were like, no, fuck you. I'm not gonna wear socks with your slippers. They were literally just like, so like, no, oh no, I don't do that. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't matter what you normally do. It's like, it's my slippers. I'm telling you,
good.
for me.
Okay, well, I'm not good.
I'm not good.
Yeah.
What about me? It's my slippers.
Not that it would be different if Robert went barefoot in his slippers, because again, that would be Robert's allowed to go barefoot in his slippers and then ask someone to wear socks with his slippers, I think, personally. But also I'm like, but Robert doesn't even go barefoot in Robert's slippers.
That's what
so
I'm
it's
saying.
just like an extra level of like violation where it's like, no, it's not like I'm even offering you socks. I think you're gross and I don't want you barefoot in my slippers. I don't even go barefoot in my slippers.
I will say society overall has gotten very like vindictive. It's gotten very eye for an eye. We're getting into like a Wild West zone where it's like, oh, okay, it's like everyone's just gonna be meeting in the town square at high noon. It's like, what about like, hey, whatever happened to just being like, hey man, sometimes shit happens, but let's move forward. What is this shit where I'm like, well, if if you ruined a pair of his shoes, he has license to ruin a pair of yours. It's like, what are these dual rules we're operating under?
An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. A shoe for a shoe makes the whole world barefoot. Do you guys want to go back to a barefoot society?
I don't. Midnight
Milkshake. I kind of like going barefoot.
We did see a person recently who had those shoes where it's like
the 5 fingers.
Yeah, they go around the toe individually. You wanna know why those never caught on? They're just weird. The thing is, they just never caught on because they're just kind of weird.
Apparently, they're bad for your feet. I think there was a class action lawsuit about it.
What? How can it be bad for your feet though?
Like,
it does mirror your barefoot.
Fasciitis. Because it's like you're not actually supposed to be walking around barefoot. It can like damage your foot overall.
But I thought the problem with walking around barefoot was purely like your foot's not protected. You could like step on something sharp. So I guess like, what's wrong with walking around just like with your toes outlined?
I don't want to speak out of my ass. Just kidding. I do, and I will
and
continue.
That's what this
podcast is. It's us talking out of our rump holes.
Okay,
sorry.
I don't like that.
You're right. I'm sorry. But no, I'm pretty sure, like, I guess it's maybe they made like health promises that weren't delivered upon or something.
I guess that's true.
I don't know. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. That's not this kind of podcast.
We're
never going to get a Jamie.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has Jamie to fact check his crazy things. We will never have a Jamie.
Well, we have a whole team of people here to fact check us, but we just never use them.
Yeah.
We make them sit in silence and they all are like,
they're like dying. They
so want to chime in.
They're like, that's not true.
And we say, no. Zip
it.
Sheesh.
Sally, I don't want to hear it.
Sally and the rest and all of you.
You know what's so funny about Joe Rogan, though, and the Jamie thing, is so many clips go viral where it's like Joe Rogan saying something insane, and then the clip ends with him being like, Jamie, can you fact check that for us? And then the clip cuts out, and then like, if you were to keep watching, it's Jamie being like, no, Joe, that's not true.
Yeah.
But the only thing that goes viral is the first part before Joe has Jamie fact check him.
Well, you know what? This isn't a defense of Joe Rogan specifically, but this is just an overall thing. I'm like, have we just forgotten how to just like chit chat? It's not that serious.
Right.
Like this thing of like, yeah, not every fact has to be literally true.
Or like, again, okay, so on the last episode, I referred to 14-year-old women and 14-year-old boys, like in the same sentence. And obviously I understand 14 years old is a girl and a boy. These are children I'm speaking on.
Yes.
That being said, I'm like, I was just talking, like it was just the word that came to mind. And I understand maybe there is like a Freudian subliminal me referring to a 14-year-old girl as a woman.
Boys
blah, blah, blah. Maybe there is like some sort of Freudian subliminal like element to that. But I also think I'm like, no, I'm just like, you You tried a podcast. You try it.
Actually, don't try
Don't
it.
try it.
Actually, don't try it. But it's just the thing, I'm like, yeah, we're not speaking literally.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, we're like, this is like it's like a one long brainstorming session.
Yeah.
That we're like letting you in on.
Well, it's like if I say like, oh man, high school sucked. And people are like, actually, you had several nice memories of your time in high school. It's like, well, yeah, I'm speaking broadly.
Right.
I'm painting with a broad brush.
We are making generalizations and then kind of like honing in on specific observations within those generalizations.
Yes.
But we are not, in the same way that when a celebrity publishes a memoir, they're not literally saying that everything in that happened exactly as they're describing. They're saying, this is how I remember it. And again, the human memory is deeply flawed.
Yes.
I mean, how many times I'm like, are you telling a story? Okay, this always happens when I'm around people from like my deep past, like old, like cousins, family, friends, things like that, where I'll be telling a story of something that happened, and then one of them will interject and they'll be like, Dana, that's not what happened. And then they'll have their whole other point of view of exactly the same instance. And it really does go to show it's like our memory is flawed. Okay, our memory is not perfect.
Well, also your memory is your experience of events is incredibly colored by your perspective on them, but
and your emotion.
And no one else has access to those two things.
No.
So when I look back on like a specific memory, like I remember how I felt and I remember what I thought about how I felt, but someone could be sitting right next to me experiencing the exact same thing, and that's a totally different memory for them.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's why I love in TV shows when they do the flashbacks of different people's points of view of what happened.
Trope.
I love that trope because it really does go to show we're all experiencing theoretically the same thing a little bit differently.
And a little bit differently. And I think our differences is what makes it beautiful.
That's so real.
Unless you're like really fucking weird.
Yeah.
I think our differences are what makes it beautiful until whoever's listening to this, is a little too different.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, fall in line. Fall in line.
Your differences are beautiful insofar as Robert thinks that they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And Robert is the final arbiter of if your differences are okay or not.
That is exactly how I feel.
Yes.
Well, dude, this is another thing that we were discussing at length off pod, and I figured let's bring it on. It's like there's a lot of discourse going on right now about to what degree someone can be held accountable for being late all the time. Because many people are saying, hey, some people just struggle with telling time. They have time blindness.
Time blindness.
A term that people started throwing around and acting as if it's been around forever, where I'm like, I don't know. I've been listening and I've been around. I've never heard time blindness until I swear to God 2 weeks ago.
Time blindness is one of those phrases that I think is definitely a post-pandemic phrase.
Yeah.
Insofar as I know.
Insofar as I know, I mean, for me, like I never have heard the term time blindness.
Yeah.
Ever. And then a couple weeks ago, suddenly everyone on the internet is like, oh yeah, so you know time blindness. I'm like, I didn't even know that was real.
Okay, that's also something that's so funny about the internet is there's some sort of like phrase or word that no one has heard of, and then the second that one person says it, everyone in unison acts like they've all heard it forever.
Yeah.
And you're super dumb if you never heard of it. But for those of you who don't know, time blindness is basically this idea that you just like can't be on time. Like no matter what you do, you just can't be on time.
But, and this is what I say about that.
And it's a symptom of ADHD.
So they claim. Here's what I say about that though. When people with time blindness are like, they can't be on time, that would mean though that they would be early as often as they are late. Because if it's truly this thing of you have no ability or concept of time, that would mean that you would show up way early as often as you'd show up way late. Also, statistically, you'd show up on time every now and then.
Yeah.
Broken clock is right once a day or twice a day or whatever. But
a time blind person is
on time
at least once a year.
Yeah, whatever the cycle is for time blindness. But also, it's like that's also the thing with time blindness people. They're like, I'm only ever late. I'm only ever late.
Yeah.
And I guess here's another thing.
Also, time blind people, I'm like, in terms of like their schedule, it's like, I don't think they're late for their things that they scheduled. But like, they're not time blind to their own
That's
like
kind of what I'm saying,
right?
Well, to someone who's like, I'm time blind, I have no ability to kind of manage deadlines or anything, I'd be like, okay, if you got shot in the stomach, when are you calling 911? And they'd say, well, I'd call 911 right away. That's obviously an emergency. I'm like, but if you truly were time blind,
yeah,
you would call and you'd be like, hi, 911, I got shot in the stomach at 3 p.m. And they'd be like, 3 p.m.? It's nearly 6. And they'd be like, is it?
Yeah, I waited 3 hours. I got distracted.
You don't know what it's like to procrastinate. No.
Yeah,
And obviously that's the most extreme example, but I do think that's the most extreme example that proves like, if it's important to you, you can be timely and recognize urgency. But yet they would say that it's like, well, no, it's just, I'm just time blind. It's like, how come you're only time blind to other people's time?
Right. How come you're only time blind to other people's time? That's real as fuck. And again, you talk about this, but like, okay, so before I met Robert, I have talked about this also on the podcast, but before I met Robert, I was chronically a little bit late. Not late enough where I could claim it was part of any sort of mental illness, but late enough where it's like, clearly this girl is like a little bit inconsiderate. Clearly I told her, hey, I'd like to meet at 3:30. And she at 3:17 looked at her clock and thought, oh, I need to go meet that person. Better start getting ready right now. And then leave my house at 3:30, the time where I know this person's already at the restaurant. So like that was the kind of late I was, where I wasn't like egregiously late, but I was like late enough where it's like, okay, that's like I was being rude ultimately. And then I met Robert, and Robert said something that like I just had never thought about, where Robert was like, Dana, if you want to be on time, you have to plan to be 15 minutes early. And this just blew my mind, because I was someone who I'm like, I always planned to arrive like right up to the minute, as if with showing up early, like I would explode if I accidentally showed up 1 minute early. That's how I live my life. I was gonna explode if I was 1 minute early, or like I was somehow like wasting time if I was 1 minute early. And then Robert was like, yeah, you have to plan to be like 15 minutes early, and that's how you be on time. And guess what? Ever since I started planning to be 15 minutes early, I'm always on time, but I'm never 15 minutes early.
Ever.
I'm always on time, but I'm never 15 minutes early.
Well, here's what I will say. I've always been a very punctual person. I've always been on time. And then I started dating my now wife, Dana Donnelly, who was late all the time. And suddenly, after having been punctual my whole life, after dating Dana, suddenly I found myself being a half hour late to stuff. Suddenly, wherever I showed up, I'd be a half hour late. And I'm like, this is weird. My whole life, I'm early, if not right on time. Suddenly I'm a half hour late. And then I realized it was ultimately Dana. And it was always different reasons. It was always like, we got to run to the dispensary. I got to go get a Diet Coke. I got to stop to get coffee. Oh, this is the wrong purse. My driver's license in the one under my bed. But you know what I do think? And this is true. As much as like a punctual person is like, can be really frustrated by a late person, the reality is if you're dating someone cool, you're gonna be late sometimes, because cool people always have shit to do right before they're supposed to walk out the door. And that is like that half hour late I started being right after I started dating my freaking cool as hell wife. That is the tax you have to pay for being with a cool person.
There is a little bit of a cool late tax. And I will say, if you guys know people who are actually cool, they're always a little bit late. Everyone who's like legit cool is a little bit late. That's just like how it be. And it's because, you'll notice a lot of really cool people, they have like eclectic jewelry, and they're always like, wearing something funky, maybe a shoe that takes a really long time to buckle. Maybe they're into vintage, and every time they're like about to leave the house, their belt breaks because it's from the year 1952.
Yeah.
And that's also part of it. But again, I'm like, I'm not making excuses for like being late, but I also acknowledge, like, I'm like, I needed to learn how to be on time.
And also let me say this about being late too. If you're truly one of those people who's late all the time, you gotta just be like, yeah, I'm late all the time. I'm a little bit of an asshole in that way. Yeah. And people are gonna be a little bit mad at me. Mm-hmm. Don't hit me with this, actually, it's righteous that I'm late. Yeah. Actually, it's the result of a mental disorder.
A disability.
A disability.
Don't hit us with, you're ableist for being mad at me for being late.
Yeah.
Also, just take it. Like, also, okay, this is also it. The cool late people I know, they know people are mad at them, and they don't really give a fuck.
Well, I've told this story for sure before, but it's one of my favorite stories. If there was in college, I was in a group project for a class, and it was me, some lame freaking nerd, this other lame freaking nerd, and then one like cool as hell lacrosse guy who had been in college for like 6 years, just like vibing out. And we were the group. And so me nerd and other nerd one, nerd on, nerd day.
Yeah. Was this a French class?
It was a French class. We showed up to our we had to meet at a certain time, and we showed up there, and the cool lacrosse guy is late. He's like 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, 30 minutes late. He shows up like 45 minutes late, and we only have like 15 minutes left to get all our work done. And nerd number 2 is so mad. He's like, you're like really, really late right now, and I'm really upset about how late you are. And cool as hell lacrosse guy goes, dude, exactly. Let's use that. Let's use that.
And then now Robert says, let's use that to me whenever I'm mad.
And it's the
And now I know who you got it from, and I'm freaking pissed. I'm pissed now at the lacrosse guy, not because of what he did at the time, but because of how it's affected Robert.
That guy, but here's what I will say about that guy. He was late as fuck. he didn't try to be like, well, you can't get mad at me. He accepted we were mad at him, and he simply didn't care because he's like, well, I'm cool. If they were cooler, they'd be less mad. Let's rock and roll.
Dude, I do think a huge part of being cool that I'm learning in real time is learning to accept that people will feel negatively toward you sometimes.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's really hard to stomach if you're like someone who's like a people pleaser, or like you're someone who grew up like really trying to make everybody like you. Like, dude, to be cool, people are gonna like hate you because they really like you. They're really envious of you. They think you're really awesome, but like they'll hate you.
Here's what I'll say. Interesting though. Being cool. I'm just thinking about the phrase being cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as you get older, being cool just becomes being well adjusted. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like the traits that make a 25-year-old cool at 35, you're just now well adjusted. I just mean like being able to like handle negativity. You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
you're just like a normal, well-regulated, emotionally stable.
Well, it's almost like in high school, you see someone who's really well adjusted and you think they're so cool because you don't really have like the framework to describe them any other way. And as I get older, I'm just like, yeah, you know what's really cool? Being yourself and knowing how to prioritize what's truly important. I'm like, oh, I'm just describing like a well-adjusted adult.
Yeah.
And funny how that happens.
But it is interesting because I think like cool is also synonymous with a level of detachment or emotional maturity.
Yes.
And I think like that is something that develops at different times for different people, which actually brings us to like, okay, like I would say for me, I ran really emotionally immature. Even now, I have definitely streaks of emotional immaturity. I sometimes struggle to control my temper, and I can be extremely volatile. And I would say that is not emotionally mature, but I am emotionally maturing. I'm getting better at detaching and being, cool under pressure, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think certain people just hit those emotional maturity benchmarks sooner than others. Mm-hmm. And that is ultimately like when you're in high school and people are really able to kind of like float between friend groups and like seemingly not get hurt. They like date people, but they don't get like heartbroken, like that's what's cool. But I'm like, but that takes a really long time for certain people to develop. And that's also where we talk about this a lot with age gap relationships.
Yes.
Where like certain people just need more time than others to become the person that they need to be.
And I'm not talking about you, 58-year-old man with 19-year-old girlfriend. No. I am not talking about you.
This applies to like pretty narrow age gaps.
Well, it actually is like, that brings me to this. This is the stuff that we were talking about, where it's like my favorite kind of age gap relationship. Because by the way, the age gap relationships get a lot of negative press, but there is like one genre of age gap relationship that I think is actually just genuinely good. And I'd say it's like when someone in their mid to late 20s dates someone in their early 30s.
Yes.
In that kind of like 4 to 6 year gap. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, to me, that's just like, oh, well, that older person, for example, isn't like, creeping or taking advantage. Like a 31-year-old isn't taking advantage of the 27-year-old they're dating, but it's almost like, oh, wow, you just needed a couple years to get your shit together so that you could be well adjusted enough for this cool 27-year-old to want to date you.
Essentially, you need a head start, or in golf, they call it a handicap. I think there is like an age gap relationship handicap. Like I think like again, and I do think it generally tends to be older guy needs a handicap in order to qualify and be the man he needs to be for a girl who's cool.
Well, but I've also seen this though. Mm-hmm. I've seen a cool as hell girl in her early 30s date a cool guy in his like mid 20s, and I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves here. I'm like, oh, when you were the age of this cool guy, you were not yet cool enough to date a cool guy.
Yeah.
But you needed like a 4 to 5 year to kind of like get your confidence up, let your frontal lobe develop, figure your shit out.
Maybe get some minor plastic surgery tweaks.
I didn't want to say it, but that's on the table.
In some people's cases, maybe, like figure out your gym routine, figure out your hormones, get your skin to clear up.
Well, we all know that like when like there's an age gap relationship where the older person is like 20 years older. Well, that's just kind of creepy, pretty much. But when there's an age gap relationship of like 4 years, I'm like, oh yeah, the older person just needed 4 years to like, hit the gym a little bit, get a nicer wardrobe, get a slightly better job.
Well, I would always think that when I was like 24 and dating like a 28-year-old, for example, where I always would think like, okay, this person is like a little bit smarter than me, but the real truth is they've had 4 more years of reading the news than I have. And so it's like when I took that into account, I was like, they're not smarter than me. They've just had 4 more years of reading the news.
And if I were to subtract 4 years of news knowledge from you, they'd be dumber than me.
Exactly. Because they're actually only like I would only need to, I would always think this. I could lock myself in a closet for 1 year and I could catch up to their 4-year head start.
Yeah.
So they were actually 3 years dumber than me, but because they were 4 years older than me, they seemed 1 year smarter than me. And I think like that's what we're talking about.
You don't know what's absolutely crazy about that? Mm-hmm. Nothing. It made perfect sense to me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm
weird.
glad that made sense to you. I don't. Are you being sarcastic?
No, I legitimately did make sense.
I think that that's exactly what the vibe was. Where I was like, yeah, you like are 1 year smarter than me, but you're 4 years older than me. So actually, you're 3 years dumber than me.
Well, also sometimes it is like, I remember like, and this wasn't like my whole world or anything, but like I worked at a marketing agency and I was an assistant. And then eventually after a couple years of being an assistant, I got promoted to coordinator, a high honor in the cubicle world.
Coordinator, baby.
Coordinator, a word that means nothing at all.
I'm actually the coordinator of the Midnight Milkshake Podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Me too.
And some other roles.
Yeah, I'm coordinator. And Biter's a coordinator.
Biter's a coordinator in the Midnight Milkshake Podcast.
Coordinator is just a word that in office culture means not an assistant, not yet an executive.
Yeah.
You're something in the middle. You're not a manager. You're not in charge of anybody, nor are you lowest on the totem pole. But anyway, I was an assistant. A couple years, I got promoted to coordinator. And then it's like instantly, as soon as I got promoted to coordinator, suddenly I am much more dateable. In general, like suddenly my stock as a human being is up because there is a massive difference in, oh, he's just an assistant to like, oh, well, he has like a normal job. Suddenly you go from I'm in the bottom feeder rung of careers to, oh, he's got a normal regular job. And sometimes that's what people need.
Well, I also think it's especially when it comes to, dare I say, like the man-woman age gap relationship, a 26-year-old woman who's like cool, it doesn't even matter if she doesn't have a job really. She's not going to want to date a guy has like a shitty job. So a lot of times the guy that she'd want to date would have to be like 31.
Yeah.
Like he'd have had to have a head start in his career.
Yeah.
For her to want to date him.
Because the guys her own age they're still in that assistant phase.
They're still in the assistant phase.
They need a couple years, get promoted just enough to be like a project manager. Now you're normal. That's all that means.
That's all that means.
Now people can date you and not be embarrassed.
Yes.
And not have to explain it. That's also what they don't tell you. It's like a couple years is really important. In any timeline. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a couple years. Like we were saying this of like, if you read someone's Wikipedia and they did something until 1998 and then did something else starting in 2000, as you read it, you go, oh yeah, they went right from that into that. It's like, well, that's 2 years.
Yeah,
that was a
huge.
big 2 years.
Also, I was telling Robert, I was watching a TikTok that was about Kenan Thompson of SNL fame. And famously, he was a child star who was on All That for most of his life. And if you look at his Wikipedia page, it says All That finished in 2000, like his contract with Nickelodeon was up in 2000, or Kenan and Kel finished in 2000. And then in 2003, he started as an SNL cast member. Okay, I watched a video that was basically like, when Kenan's contract with Nickelodeon came up, he discovered that his business manager had robbed him blind. Mm-hmm. He had no money. He was completely bankrupt. SNL wouldn't even see him because they said he looked too young. Yeah. And so those 3 years between 2000 and 2003 that are a blip on his Wikipedia page, during that time, he was like effectively homeless, borrowing money from friends, staying on friends' couches, literally was not doing very well at all. And it probably felt like the longest 3 years of his fucking life. But if you were to just read his Wikipedia page, you would think it was seamless like Kenan and Kel than SNL. Yeah. Not what happened.
You need a couple years.
Like
a couple years.
Those years are huge. Also, Robert and I always talk about this, but like we're in such a different place now than we were a year ago. A year ago, we were in such a different place than we were the year before that.
Well, I always think about this when my first like shitty, terrible job in LA, I quit. I was fired. I was fired from, and I started my next, admittedly less shitty job. Like 3 weeks from the date I was fired to the date I started my next job, I think it was 3 weeks. So on a like resume or that's not even a gap.
No.
If you're just looking at it as 3 weeks, I'll tell you that 3 weeks was a roller coaster of emotions, of relief, of stress, because I didn't know that I was going to get that job yet. But also now I have free time, but also I'm running out of money. And I'm like, that was the craziest 3 week period of one of the craziest 3 week periods of my life. And from an outside observer, oh, that's nothing. That's a blip.
Yeah.
But it's like those little blips, that's where all the shit is.
Yeah, that's where life is happening.
Yeah.
Life is happening in those years. And so yeah, like when a 31-year-old guy dates a 26-year-old girl, it's because he needed those 5 years to like get his shit together.
Yeah. And that is the rare example of like, oh, I see what I see what those years what that gap was for. I see the purpose of that gap. It's not just like, oh, manipulation and creepy. I see the purpose.
Yeah. And also a lot of times, especially with like what we're talking about with these smaller age gaps, and also obviously we're talking about people in their like mid-20s and above, because this doesn't really apply to like
18 and 24.
18 and 24.
So
I don't think a 24-year-old should date an 18-year-old. I actually think that's weird.
And you know what I'm saying? If you're listening to this and you have all these like, but what about this? Not that then.
No, not that.
If you're going to be like, what about this one? Not that one.
If you have a good example for something that's creepy, I believe you that it's creepy then.
Yeah.
I believe you that it's creepy.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is when it's not creepy.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking
But again,
about.
also it's like, again, I also think a lot of media gives you the sense that development and maturity should be instantaneous. And here's what I do literally think. I remember watching a lot of Disney Channel shows that made me think that I, at like 8 years old, was supposed to be dating.
Dude.
I swear to God.
Dude, I literally think, okay, people online, they do take it to this place where they're like, these kid shows were grooming us. And I'm like, here's my thing. I think there's arguments to be made for that, because like, yeah, why were we watching Zach and Cody being like, should I be kissing? I'm in 5th grade. Should I be kissing? Why should I be kissing?
Well, okay.
I'm in 5th grade.
There's also the grooming element, obviously, of like the creepy, nefarious, like to like set you up for adults or something. But I also think it was creepy. It's like Zach and Cody were going on dates with like girls their same age, and I was the same age as Zach and Cody while I was watching the show, and I was like, well, I haven't been on a date yet. I haven't taken a girl to a bowling alley. I haven't kissed a girl. So many of those shows are like, it ends with like Zach and Cody like kissing a girl, and I'm like, I don't even, and I'm like 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I gotta get laid.
Yeah.
I'm like, why?
Fuck, I gotta get laid. Well, like, I'm like, yeah, you're watching these shows at 10, 11, you're going like, damn, like, I need to be getting bitches. No, you don't. You need to be eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich and going to soccer practice.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be kissing.
Yeah, that's not
what
whatever.
the freak? Like, and like, but again, they make you feel like a loser if you're not kissing.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Also, I'm like, where does Zach and Cody get their money? I don't, you know what I mean?
I think they have allowance.
Dude, I think they.
I don't think money was the problem. I mean, I had a debit card famously at this time.
But also, I'm kind of like Zach and Cody would like, they would like, I remember there was an episode where Zach and Cody took another pair of twins out on a date.
Yeah.
It's kind of a,
also,
like
you know what's funny about those
premise.
twins?
What?
People are always talking about them because they played Legally Blondes in one of the Legally Blonde like sequels.
Yeah.
They played Elle Woods' little twin cousins or something, but they're these British twins, and they completely retired from show business, which is so funny. I think they like got their bag and then they like freaking dipped.
But I remember watching that episode of Zach and Cody where they go on a date with twins.
Yeah.
And again, I'm their same age in real life. I'm like a elementary schooler. And I'm watching this, and suddenly I am putting this expectation on myself of like, I've never been on a date with a twin. If I want to be cool, I better find a twin to date.
Well, but you don't need a twin because you're one guy.
Yeah. I'm just one. I'm definitely not 2 twins pretending to be one person. But anyway, but I was like, I'm like, and here's the thing. If I hadn't watched those shows, that never would have even entered into my thinking.
That you needed to date twins.
That I needed to date anyone. It's it never would have even been if I was just left to be, however old I was. It wouldn't. I would just be thinking about soccer practice and action figures.
Well, I always think about how like wanting to lose your virginity. That's like, again, something that's just emphasized and highlighted in media.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think if I had been like really sheltered and never read any like John Green books or watched TV shows, I would never know that I was supposed to be trying to lose my virginity.
Yeah.
What the freak? Like, I'm like, also, we talk about this a lot too, but it's like, okay, as an adult, I look back and I'm like, here's the real truth is when people are old virgins, I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think it's shameful. I can totally see how you like live your whole life just like having sex not come up.
That's the real thing.
Like,
I totally get just like not getting around to it.
I totally get
dare
that.
I say, could be normal. Dare I say, that's one of those things that people act like, oh, if you're like a 30-year-old virgin, that's really weird. And that's one where I go like, not necessarily. In fact, I see a lot of really normal, regular paths to being that.
Well, also, again, I see more and more people like, whatever, tell stories like on the internet where they're like, I'm 28 years old and like I've never had sex, and I'm like, and they'll explain like why they've never had sex, and I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, it just, again, sometimes it's just not a priority for people. And again, I'm like, would it have been such a priority for me if I hadn't been so indoctrinated by like all of this media that was like, if you don't lose your virginity before you graduate high school, you're a fucking loser. You're a fucking loser. No one will ever sleep with you because no one wants to sleep with virgins. That's also like this. That's a really weird kind of like misconception in media. I feel like where it's like if you've never had sex, you never will have sex because no one wants to frick anyone who doesn't frick.
Yeah.
Like it's like not a pyramid scheme, but it's like kind of like an entry level job.
That's an entry level job.
They treat losing your virginity like an entry level job, where like if you haven't already had sex, good luck having sex. Who's gonna want to frick you?
We don't
you
hire
don't even
you
know
with,
how to frick.
You can't get hired without experience.
Yeah.
You can't get experience without getting hired. It's like a closed loop. It's like, no. That's when again, I'm like, I get not getting around to it.
I get it.
There's explanation. There's like a lot of it. Like, there are like some like, I guess for lack of a better word, weird reasons. Like if you're like part of like a religious cult, you're dealing with shame.
No, but a lot of religious cults, I'm like, not to be gross, but some of those people, they lose their virginity to like some weird old pastor.
Yeah. They're like, I lost my virginity before everyone in my class.
Yeah, for everyone in my cult.
It's because I'm one of my cult leaders, 48 wives. Like, oh, score, I guess. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, there are like a lot of instances in which like having lost your virginity early is like oftentimes like worse and weirder.
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, yeah, and that's
we won't get into that.
Well, we won't get into it because it's depressing.
It's really
and quite sad.
Right. Sorry.
And no, it is just.
We gotta keep it light.
We're trying to keep a fun tone.
Yeah.
We're gonna do like a Seinfeld riff. Yeah. You know, a lot of religious cults, they indoctrinate children.
Dun 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 dun.
So there you go.
Yeah, but basically what we're saying is that being a virgin isn't weird, and not kissing when you're 11 isn't weird.
Well, for sure, yeah.
That's all.
But that's all. But
also,
a
PSA.
I also do think like all of those, even on like if you're gonna take like a glass like half full, like give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume no one writing these children's shows is a creep. Big assumption.
Yeah.
But let's just assume for the sake of argument. But I'm like, I do think a lot of it is like they're all like sitcom writers and they just take sitcom storylines and apply it to children.
Yeah.
But the problem is so many sitcom storylines are about people in their 20s and 30s who for whom casual dating and hooking up is normal. But then you put that onto like Zach and Cody and all of a sudden I'm like, well, suddenly it's not normal. But then
when does wanting to reuse storylines and like lazy writing become accidental grooming of a generation?
When does it become accidentally the creepiest shit ever?
Yeah.
A storyline that would be normal for like Rachel and Ross, suddenly it's weird when it's like
Debbie Ryan and Zach from Zach and Cody. Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on?
What's happening here?
But again, maybe there's like an element of that where as a kid that there was something aspirational and cool about it. But then it's aspirational, but it kind of making me aspire to like the wrong things. It's like, why am I as an 8-year-old aspiring about taking like a date to the bowling alley?
Right.
I should just be aspiring to go to the bowling alley.
Right. The bowling alley should be enough.
Because I'm freaking 8.
I shouldn't need a date to the bowling alley.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're 9 and you're alone at the bowling alley.
Yeah, and then I go to the bowling alley with my parents and I'm like pissed at them. I'm like, you're not even twins.
Wait, but like actually that's so funny too, because why was being with your parents anywhere past the age of 8 so embarrassing? Because you were like, I should be here with my date.
I should be here with my date. And my parents are like, do you have a date? And I'm like, no.
I remember like when I was in high school, I would be so embarrassed when I'd go out for dinner with my family and like I would see like a table of like the 2 popular guys and girls group and they'd be at dinner like alone, like with the guys and girls group, and I'd be with my parents and I'd be like, don't look at me. Like I'd put my hood up. I'd be like hiding from them the whole night, and then I'd like run into one of the girls in the bathroom and they'd be like, oh, Dana, are you with your parents? And I'd be like, no, that's my trouble.
That's your throuple. I'm in an age gap throuple with people who look kind of like me. Oh, are you with your parents? No, I'm just sexually devious. I promise, I swear.
Me lying that I'm in a throuple age gap relationship so people don't think I'm at dinner with my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
and that's how sad it gets.
But dude, sometimes there was a couple times I remember it started 7th grade, 8th grade, which was I briefly was like socially doing quite well, not to brag, but like we would like me and just like a bunch of like friends would like we would go and we would like get dinner before seeing a movie, and like all our parents would drop us off. So it was like that was the first instance of like no parents, just us. We're all getting dinner at like California Pizza Kitchen before walking over to AMC to watch a movie.
That's cool.
And I will say, it's like that was the coolest shit in the world.
Did you ever see like a loser girl from your school with her parents?
Yeah, and we beat the fuck out of her.
I mean, it's not to say like I never got the experience of like going to dinner with friends.
Yeah. All the friends who went to a different school who you met at camp or something. Yeah, I got you. I got you.
You just wouldn't know them.
Yeah, of course. Here's the thing about like growing up, and it's really interesting because like you grow up once you hit all these really arbitrary benchmarks. You know what I mean? Like graduating high school, losing your virginity, going to college, graduating college, first job,
losing your second virginity.
Losing your second virginity. They don't tell you about virginity 2.0. Yeah. But you realize that the thing that happens is after you hit all these benchmarks, you look back and you go, oh, those benchmarks weren't even a big deal.
No.
And how weird is it that like we build up these benchmarks and put all this pressure on people to like meet them. And if they don't meet them, these people hate themselves and like we feel so much shame. But then the only thing you get when you complete these arbitrary benchmarks is just like the realization that like, oh, none of that shit mattered.
Yeah.
So much of our society is like convincing you that shit that doesn't actually really matter is the most important thing in the world to like shame you and like stress you out. And then if you do manage to push through the shame, your only reward is like, oh, that was all kind of bullshit anyway.
Yeah, well, I saw this girl talking about it like where she framed it like this, where she was like, until you like graduate from college, life is a game where pretty much everyone's playing the same game.
Yeah.
Like we're all like in high school, most of us are playing the get into college game.
Yeah.
And then in college, most of us are playing the make sure I have a job secured for after college game.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's like everyone's game inherently becomes really different and you have to figure out what game you're playing.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of like crazy thing where you just realize like, oh, all those like arbitrary milestones or benchmarks I crossed or achieved, like those were all part of like a game where everyone was trying to get those things. But now I inherently have to create my own benchmarks and milestones that will probably be more meaningful because I make them up.
But also the thing about that too is also I would say actually the real maturity comes from like when those benchmarks don't go your way. So like it's one thing to be like, oh, first girlfriend, first relationship, but then like actually getting dumped is the real one.
Yeah,
it's
because that's the one that actually creates transformation.
Or it's like the first job is like I remember getting fired from my first job and it being a profound relief and it just sort of hitting me that like, oh, it's okay if you lose these jobs.
Yes.
Because I also think so much of the pressure was like, I have to get a job right out of college. I have to get a job right out of college. Oh my God, all right, I have this job. I can't lose the job. I can't lose the job. And then I did lose the job. That sucked ass, by the way. I did lose the job and then I instantly felt amazing. And I was like, oh, it's okay.
Yes.
Oh, it's all right.
Oh, it's okay. Like it's surviving the loss that you thought was just unsurvivable.
Yeah. And the same thing happened like the first time you get broken up with. Immediately you're like, it's over. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And then actually like you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I'm myself.
Well, also the second that you have a crush on someone else again, you're literally like Lamau.
Well, that is also it. That's also what I see. People who are like afraid to break up with like their shitty like girlfriend or boyfriend. Yeah. Most of the time boyfriend. Because women are better.
No, but sometimes, okay, here's my thing. Sometimes people are just like incompatible. And I think especially if you meet someone before you are yourself, the odds that you're going to be incompatible are high because you're not even yourself yet.
That's true.
Like,
but anyway, my point is like whenever people are like, I see people like clinging to that first relationship. Dare I say the way I like my first job, I was like clinging to that first job.
Death grip.
And it's like a death grip.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm like, if you let go, it would be a profound relief. And you would realize then everything would click into place.
Surrender.
It's okay. We're going to move into the ASMR portion of the Midnight Milkshake Podcast. We could never do ASMR because as soon as you got fired up.
I'd get so loud really quick.
Yeah, you'd be like,
all
right, so this one time in middle school, these girls, they said they would invite me, and then my mom.
Yeah. I probably couldn't do middle school ASMR without getting really upset.
Well, there you have it.
This was Midnight Milkshake. Shakers, shake it up. Keep you shaking.
This is like one of those things. Sometimes I would have this when I was like doing a stand-up set where I was feeling myself losing steam, but I wanted to end strong. But I kept losing steam, so I kept trying to get like a giant laugh, but it wouldn't come. And then I'm like, well, I can't leave now. I didn't get a giant laugh. I can't leave now. And I'm like, I'm waiting for like a big perfect crescendo that never arrived. And then it always, when it is, just like it just gets awkward, too awkward. And I have to be like, all right, well, that's it.
Right, like it's like you really run it into the ground.
Yeah,
you don't leave on a high note.
No.
You were on a medium note and you said, let's hit the high.
I'm like, I can't leave on a medium. I have to leave on a high note. Right. And then I'm leaving on just the lowest note.
There's never been a lower note.
Chasing the high note makes the note so low.
And on that note.
Well, that was good.